Hey everyone, this is Larry Everett with Hyperspace Beacon, and we are back on the Star Wars The Old Republic Test Center testing out the new content for Game Update 2.7. And although I love that BioWare has a Nightmare Mode Dread Fortress, my primary interest is in the storytelling of the new content. Now, if you remember, prior to launch, SWTOR developers touted the whole fourth pillar and story being the missing part of MMOs, and admittedly I bought it, and many of the games that BioWare has made up to that point had, and dare I say, changed the single player RPG market. And so I really loved the idea of story in my MMO, and I loved the idea of BioWare doing it. Now, since launch, BioWare has kind of waned a little bit. I don't want to say they've completely gotten rid of story in their MMO, because obviously it is still there. However, they've waned a little bit, and now they seem to have focused on mechanics. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to get the impression that I hate mechanics or that I think that mechanics are unimportant to the game as a whole. But for me personally, I think that it takes both a good mechanics and good storytelling to make a good game, and not just a good MMO. So, I guess the question here today is, where does Game Update 2.7, specifically the new Flashpoints, where do they fit into this whole game versus mechanics thing?
Shortly after the game launched, I was invited to BioWare Studios in Austin to try out a Flashpoint, Lost Island. It was set to release in the next update. So, I remember speaking to the community team about what I thought about the Flashpoint versus some of the other Flashpoints that were already in the game. I remember being on board with the mechanics, saying that they were challenging and the Flashpoint should strive to have this level of difficulty. However, the Flashpoint as a whole didn't quite live up to some of the previous instance dungeons, specifically the Black Talon and Essalus. I measured every Flashpoint off of those two Flashpoints. For me, they combined challenging mechanics with exciting storytelling. In the previous Hyperspace Beacon, I mentioned how I thought that Game Update 2.7 might be returning SWTOR to its roots. That might only be partially true. As I said, to make a great Flashpoint, you need two elements: challenging mechanics and great storytelling. Let's talk about the first one. As you return fresh from your victory on Tython, Sergeant Tarstan informs you that Korriban, specifically the Sith Academy, was attacked by Republic forces. Immediately, Lana Benenko, Darth Arcus, and you spring into action. You take the first shuttle you can find to Korriban as Lana coordinates the fight from Viken Station. Just like the Tython counterpart Flashpoint, Korriban instance contains three bosses: Master Rilna, R9RX, and Commander Jensen. Korriban is a mess when you land. Republic troops are everywhere. Your only way to the Academy is to push through them. After defeating some elite level commanders, your first challenge comes in the form of Sage Master Rilna. This Jedi uses many of the same abilities you'll find in a telekinesis spec Sage. However, partway through the fight, Rilna will release some mind-controlled Takata. The normal rules of DPS say that you should kill the adds first and then the boss, but these adds don't hit very hard. If you happen to have a tank or a good healer in your group, one person can hold the Takata while the others DPS the boss. When the boss is defeated, the adds disappear. I complained about the first boss in Tython instance being unfriendly to melee. Well, that is nothing compared to the R9XR Defender droid. I don't want to give the impression that I want the fight to be easy, but the mechanics of the fight make it impossible for me to keep up any kind of sustained DPS. Whereas a ranged character is literally unaffected by the droid's AoE ability. Periodically, the droid will drop a 20-meter reticle on the ground just under his feet. You have approximately 1 second to get out of the reticle before it starts spitting fire that has damaged me about 10%. every second. In addition to the fire AoE, it drops random mines which can be easily avoided and shoots a laser burst at a random group member, which didn't appear to do too much damage in story mode. Although the boss is fairly easy to beat in this mode, I'm not looking forward to it if BioWare ever makes a hard mode. Comparatively, Jedi Commander Jensen is sweet Patoga. Although he will periodically lift everyone in the air and hit you with AoE damage, the only mechanic you really have to watch out for are the containment droids. Unlike the ads from the first boss, it's in your best interest to kill these ads right away because they will stun the closest group member, making it impossible for him or her to fight. Other than the frustration from the second boss, the mechanics of these fights are super easy. And if BioWare intends to leave the mechanics the way they are, then this Flashpoint will not meet the level of my desired challenge. However, things start to get interesting when we look at the story. I will likely give away some of the story here, so if you want to wait for the Flashpoint to go live before you find anything out, then pause the video here and leave your comments below on what you've seen so far. I'll give you a moment to pause. I don't want to overthink the dialogue at the beginning of the instance, but to me, Darth Arkus appears to be far too congratulatory, even going so far as to reprimand Sergeant Tarskin on your behalf. It's also clear from the other Flashpoint that he and Lord Go are up to something. Then, when you meet Lana Benenko later, she confirms it by saying that Darth Arkus wasn't even being forthright with her. Although the pieces of the puzzle just begin to come together, we know that Commander Jensen knows something about both the attack on Tython and Korriban. Unfortunately, he dies before he can say anything. And Lana, in a private conversation, says that she believes that the Tython and Korriban invasions were coordinated together. Lana mentions a presence in the Force, growing and writhing, existing nowhere and everywhere at once. After meeting Lana, the Sith warrior, the Emperor's Wrath, receives a note from the Hand. It says two things. Despite what you may have heard from Darth Maul and others, the Emperor is not dead. And we have foreseen that your allegiance to the Emperor will be tested. Because of the note and Lana's statement, it is my guess that the Emperor will return and Darth Arkus is working with the Republic to find artifacts that will destroy the Emperor before he is able to rise.
You have served the Empire with strength and passion. I applaud you.
Well, there you have it. That is my take on the Imperial Flashpoints coming in Star Wars The Old Republic Game Update 2.7. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe my story? Do you believe that the Emperor is coming back? Or do you possibly have some other ideas of what Darth Arkus is looking for? Let me know in the comments. Or you could also, if you'd like, you could let me know on Twitter, which is HSBeacon. Or you can let me know also on my personal Twitter, which is Shadow, SHADDOE. And of course, you can always follow us on Tumblr, which is hyperspacebeacon.tumblr.com. Or you can go to hyperspacebeacon.com and let us know in the comments there. Or of course, if you like what you see here, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Hyperspace Beacon. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week where I take on the Republic side of these same instances. May the Force be with you.